All right, folks, we are looking at Bahubali. Pull up the blah blah blah. Mute my comrades for a moment. All right, where are we here? Okay, Bahubali 2, the conclusion. From IMDb, here's the long line. When Shiva, the son of Bahubali, learns about his heritage, he begins to look for answers. His story is juxtaposed, juxtaposed, cut, intercut with past events that unfolded in the Mahishmati Kingdom before, about his dad. So we've got that, and it really is, I would argue, the story of Bahubali Senior, and upon that realization of who his father was, then Shiva's story to restore. So there's a quick take. It was, again, much like the previous movie, directed by S.S. Rajamouli, written by him from a story by his father, which I find fascinating, from a story that he told him as a child, and of course expounded upon. KV, and I'm gonna Shashank will correct me when we bring him back. KV Vijayendra Prasad. Of course, it stars the incomparable Prabhas. Also stars Rana Daggubati, Tamannaah, Anushka, Shetty, Ramya, Krishna, Sathyaraj, Subbaraju, and Nassar. I think that's about it for what's going on there. Let's talk about a social nutrition checklist. Would it have ever gotten a reframe stamp back in 2016 when this was made in India, in the Tamil, in Tollywood? No, it would not have. Was it union made? I'm saying no. That doesn't mean I can't be corrected. Unlike American Canadian production, where those logos are right at the end, I was unable to verify if it was union made film. Perhaps Shashank could help us out with that, and I can always recorrect later. What about the checklist, or what about the Bechdel test? Again, in this film, no. If there's any conversation between women, it was usually a mother and a wife, or a foster mother and others, and it was always about Bahubali or Shiva. Okay. Is there any class consciousness? No, it's a hero's epic, a royal son epic. Yeah, no, this is not the movie. This is not the movie you're looking for. All right, with that out of the way, let's get the guys back. Oops, yikes! I can't believe I did that. Let's get the guys back on, gents. Can you tell it's the morning, and apparently not my best time. Why don't you let's get a quick review going here.
Certainly.
Shashank, why don't you start us off? What's your
Yeah.
quick review?
Look, I really enjoyed this film. I think in comparison to part one, I would say I definitely preferred this. It's essentially about answering the question that we left off at part one, which is why Katappa killed Bahubali. But, even though this film is Bahubali to the conclusion, I feel it's more of a prequel rather than a sequel. The first movie, I would say it's more a traditional good versus evil story. It's like these guys are the villains and these guys are the heroes. But with this movie, what I really liked about part two is that it's a lot more nuanced. Except Amrendra Bahubali and Shiva and Rana Daggubati's character, everybody else has flaws and everybody makes mistakes, and it all leads to this incredibly tragic end of Amrendra Bahubali. So the best thing about this movie is that every character has a flaw, and they all get blinded and they make mistakes, and that results in this very tragic story. Now, I think it's very loud, it's over the top. But having said that, to have so much of pathos in an Indian movie sensibility, I think that's great. So, if I would have to describe this to a global audience, I would say this would be Lion King meets the Indian movie sensibility. I think that's how I would describe it. So I would definitely recommend this film over Part One for a global audience. Having said that, there are like a couple of major flaws I have with this film. Like initially we start off the first film with Shiva's story, and to just see it being ended so abruptly, like just half an hour of screen time devoted to his character, about a couple of minutes of screen time devoted to Avantika's character, I thought that was terribly handled. And it was just bloodlust at that point. It's like, hey, we need to get a big revenge, and it's over and done with. So I definitely didn't like the last half an hour of the film, especially the way they dealt with the characters of Shiva and Avantika. And I also felt, the fight sequences, they were just, I mean, they just they defied the laws of physics by a big margin, especially the final one. And I mean, I get it that, you are people of superhuman strength and it's a mythological story, but I think the fight scene in the last half an hour, it just stretched the bounds of credibility. But, having said that, I mean, these are some flaws I could find, but overall, I definitely love this film. And I would say I prefer this film over Part One any day. I enjoyed it for the most part. So, yeah.
I think you're being a little harsh.
I'm not
Jim, what was your give us your quick review.
Sure. Well, I have a few rhetorical questions I wrote down here. I said, is Bahu 2 too much Bahu? Is it possible that 2 is less subtle than 1? Is Bala Scar? Is Katapa Dobby? Those are just a few. Just a few. I'm just a slave. Here's a sock. Oh, thank you, Mr. Potter. Anyway, yeah, I agree with Shashank here. Actually, they're two wildly different movies. It's not just a continuation of well, I shouldn't say wildly, but they are two different movies. Same sensibility, but I think there's more obstacle in this. The characters are given more to do. Especially even in the first half hour where the son is playing a bonehead, which is how it was translated in the subtitles. Just everyone's given more to do. The first one was almost like a Tales of Hercules, almost like a recitation of all the things that he could do. And if it weren't for the sort of the artful, let's say bigness of the first movie, it might not have been as
presentation.
The presentation, like the over the top quality of it, and the action and the slow motion and the hair in the wind and everything else. That was all when I stumbled on a Globe and Mail article, just to reiterate, and it said these are 21 action movies to watch in 2021. And this was listed in the Globe and Mail, which is one of Canada's national newspapers. And so I presented this to Rob, and we said, "Yeah, it sounds wacky." And we watched the trailer, and it sort of had that over the top Lord of the Rings vibe. I found the two movies quite different. I did enjoy this one. I did enjoy the first one. I enjoyed this one better. I was more dialed into the story, and I watched this fairly late last night. But I was in for it. Like I was like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, that was, I was wide awake, and
we're doing the.
Well, yeah, no,
I rewind that part.
Well, sometimes you depending on your own energy and your circadian rhythms, you think, 2 and 3/4 hours, am I going to make it? And no, I was fully present for right up until the end, and I do agree as well with Shashank is that the Avantika was sort of I don't even think she had a line, or she might have had a couple lines.
One line, Shiva, that's all.
Yeah. So they sort of dropped that. It was, so it's not exactly a continuation of the story, but they seem to be two wildly different movies. I preferred this one. Yeah, I just want to also know, what are they? What are these shields made out of? Is it the stuff you get in Wakanda? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, no, it was quite enjoyable.
Thanks to that, Jim, and thank you, Shashank. For myself, yeah, I agree with you guys. You can see you in some way this is a better movie in part because of the success of the first. Because then, like, you can tell they had more time. Everything looked better. But also I think because they had more money and time, they were able to develop the story more. When you guys keep talking about two different movies, and yes, 1 and 2 are different movies, but like you said, the same sensibility. You are seeing this epic tale as told through a father and a son. But I also thought this movie was two different stories. It starts, and because of the nature of at least the Indian films, the Bollywood and Tollywood films that Jim and I have seen, our extensive experience, Shashank. But you're like you sort of like, oh, okay, we're going to start with a comedy. Pathos, as you referred to it, Shashank, the pathos will come, but it starts as a romantic comedy. And with all the over-the-topness one expects from from the insanity, and I mean that as a compliment, the bonkers nature of Indian film, just that willingness to go all out. But yeah, I think that was a great entry into the tale. I also thought I was really, even now, and I wasn't able to rewatch it this week. I saw it when we knew we were going to do this, and again, false starts. But I still remember what I really enjoy about the hotel. They do build a character. Bahubali, Shiva, and their effect on others, which they dig into a little more. We do get to know the mother. Both the mother of Bahubali, but the mother of Shiva. Antika, yeah, she gets screwed in this film, which is really unfortunate. It's not like they couldn't have. Are we gonna, Jim? Do you think we would have noticed another 10 minutes slapped on here and there? It's long enough. They could have given her something to do, like. That said, by the end of it, I was in it. I was saying in the green room to Jim before you came on to Shashank, I'm like, I would recommend to anyone, commit an entire evening or an afternoon. You know what? One of those cold afternoons, like they're coming here in Canada, where you're staying inside all day. You just are. It's -30. And then wind chill, No one's going out. It's Sunday. Commit the afternoon, close the curtains, watch both films, have a real intermission, but just watch them both, cuddle up. Like it's just that big. Watch them together, because you really will go through a roller coaster of emotions. It was a great experience. Can't recommend the film enough, even though, it's like, wow, we have more money. Let's make these battle scenes even crazier than the last movie. And I'm like, well, I don't think you needed to do that. Like, just up the quality, which they did. But the physics was not just broken. It was physics were the laws of physics were mugged and then brutally beaten. They'd taken the money and then they just beat them up and shoved them in a dumpster. But again, I saw it a while ago. That's not the key. I had to be reminded of that. I remember Yeah, we'll get more into it later in the craft of the story. But I think we got a round of go see the effing film.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, if this quick review only whetted your appetite and you want to dive deeper into this film, check out the replay of this episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Every show we go beyond the review to get into the craft, the story, and the meaning of the films we watch. And if you subscribe and ring that bell, you'll get the heads up in time to join us and the best chat on the internet live. See what I did there? Anyway, that's about it. Thanks so much for checking out our review. And bye-bye.